Hello, all of you. Right, so is that one working? Can you hear me at the back? Can you hear me at the back? Can you hear me at the back? Yeah. Can you hear me at the back? Yeah. Right, keep it that near. Okay. Hey, hello, Crash 40. Thank you so much for coming all the way to Walsall. Welcome to Walsall. Not a phrase often heard. My name's Paul Drury. I'm ably assisted by Martin Carroll. We both write for a magazine called Retrogamer. And our guest today has appeared in the pages of Retrogamer many, many times. And I am not surprised, because this guest was an absolute pioneer of the British software industry, particularly in the area of 3D. Now, though I've interviewed him several times for a publication, this is the first time I've ever interviewed him on stage, and that is not surprising, because this is actually the first time that Malcolm Evans has ever been at a retro event, or indeed ever been interviewed on stage. Malcolm, we promise that we will be gentle with you, but let's give him a very warm Spectrum Walsall. Welcome, Malcolm Evans! Thanks, everyone. Okay, the way it's going to work is I'm going to ask Malcolm some questions about 8 of the games from his back catalogue, which Martin is going to show some videos and stuff. And actually, though we are, of course, here to celebrate the Spectrum being 40 years, is that actually, Malcolm, you started coding on the ZX81. So I'm assuming, like the rest of us, that you paid for the ZX81 through the paper round that you must have been doing at the time. Would that be right?
No.
You didn't have a paper round?
No, I didn't have a paper round. I finished that. It was my wife bought it for me for my birthday.
Oh, what 16th? Oh, for God's sake. What's that?
Hey, we got one! I mean, to be fair, if you've only got one, we can share it. But it's not hard to share.
Turn all over.
It's just charged. Okay. Alright, are we going to try? Thank you for your patience, everyone. Oh, Malcolm, I believe you got the ZX81 for your birthday. How old were you?
37, according to you.
37 years young, okay. So, tell us then, you had actually got a background in hardware rather than software. What was your background in hardware?
It was basically in spacecraft. I was doing satellites. In fact, the first satellite I worked on went up on Black Arrow in '71, something like that. And of course, the 3 days before Black Arrow actually went up, the government cancelled the project. So we all, the industry decided to carry on to the launch, and it launched, and it was fine. The only problem was that the third stage went and hit the satellite, knocked an aerial off, and I don't know the story of it going shh, 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 like that as it went round. And fortunately, I wasn't there at the launch. But there was a colleague of mine up on the roof of the factory with a 6 foot long helical aerial that he'd done on a swivel chair with a meter on his lap to see how strong the signal was, and I was decoding the. I was actually decoding the signals, and we actually managed to pass it back to Farnborough, who actually missed the first pass. So we were the first lot to actually get the information.
So this is not very easy, I'm sorry, Malcolm, with one microphone. But anyway, okay, so you managed to get a ZX81 from your wife. Okay, so I believe that the first game you actually tried to do was, well, I presume you tried to do a clone of Pong.
No, I didn't even know what Pong was. All I was trying to do was to get to learn how to program, because the problem was that the company I was working for, even though they had a small microprocessor department, didn't want me to go over to that side. You know, it was too important with that one. So that's why she bought me the birthday present, the Z81, and therefore my idea was to learn how to program it. So the first thing I did was to do an algorithm for a maze.
Now, a maze seems quite sensible, a 2D maze, I assume.
Yeah, then I just thought, what would it look like in 3D? And, how could I do that on the ZX81? And that's, what came out as being the simplest way of doing it.
Well, you see the simplest way of doing it. What we're seeing on screen is 3D Monster Maze on the ZX81. And as I said, I think most people would be pretty pleased if they'd got a flickery version of Space Invaders. And you've gone for a full 3D maze with a T-Rex in it. So, weren't you being ridiculously ambitious, Malcom?
I was being ignorant. Because I hadn't seen any games, I didn't know what they were doing.
Hello.
And all I was just trying... Okay. And all I was trying to do was to learn how to use the ZX81. And, I then came across John Gray, who had some games, and he's said we could perhaps market it, perhaps put monster in it. So that's what I did, put a 3D monster in it.
Okay, again, you say this all very nonchalantly. Oh, I just thought I'd knock up a 3D game on the ZX81, then I thought I'd put a T-Rex on. Can you tell me about some of the technical challenges? Because this does look a lot different to most ZX81 games that we were playing.
Well, it's different because it's still working.
Yeah.
It's different because I hadn't seen a Z81 game anyway, other than what came with the computer itself. It was just these ideas that were coming up, and it slowly developed from that. And what the interesting thing was that when I was programming in the bedroom. Okay.
Literally a bedroom coder, except you actually had a wife in the bedroom as well, didn't you?
Yeah.
Unlike most of us at that time. Not even your wife. Can I just make that absolutely clear?
Yeah, it was my wife. Yes. Yeah. No, she wanted to come up to bed, and I was carrying on coding. And I was playing.
As the actress said to the bishop.
What do you mean? Sorry, thank you. Yeah. Anyway, and I was testing it, and all of a sudden, T-Rex appeared. Suddenly, there was no messaging then at all, and my wife burst out laughing, and because I was going all like this, and as a result, we ended up putting not only the messages underneath, but remember the text on the scrolling was actually serious.
Yeah, I found that fascinating. So you managed to create a game that actually scared you, which is pretty impressive given the hardware you've got. So let's ask about these little comments, which are great. They really add to the tension. Rex lies in wait. Rex is hunting you. He's behind you, run. But I want to ask, did you give Rex some intelligence? Was he really hunting you?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
I can't remember the algorithm now, but he was...
We weren't asking you to recite the algorithm, that would be amazing.
But he was actually trying to get to you all the time. Yeah, so the only thing he couldn't do is turn round, so he went round another route. So if he was running away from you, he wouldn't suddenly turn round. That was the only thing, but he was actually going towards you, and you had to keep out of the way and try and find the exit at the same time.
Of course, I noticed that you can't shoot T-Rex. I just wondered, is that because, too many T-Rexes have died already in this world?
No, it was just because the idea of shoot 'em up hadn't arrived at my head. That's the thing. It was a passive game, that's what that
It was about, yes, you're escaping. The first survival horror game, ladies and gentlemen. Now, one of the reasons it's particularly tense is that it is silent as well, so when T-Rex appears, it's a shock. But you've told me before that actually you think you could have put sound into this game. Is that true?
Well, in Jonah Barrett and Squash, I got the Spectrum to actually speak. You know, you could actually understand what the words were. The ZX81 was capable of doing that if it had a speaker on it. So, yes, the answer is that, but I could have actually done it, yeah.
Wow, so if it wasn't technically impressive enough, we could have had T-Rex screaming at you as well. So, because T-Rex has definitely screamed, we know that through this historical fact. Okay, you mentioned this game is released through a label J.K. Gray.
Yeah.
So this is John Gray, I think. Okay.
Yeah.
So at what point were you, a bedroom coder, realised that then, hang on, maybe I could release this and make some money?
Well, John and I became partners, and he was supposed to do all the marketing, and I was doing the mail order and doing the programming. And my wife and I went to his flat every day in Bath, and we did all the mail order, and then went home where I did the programming, and we hardly ever saw him. He was a sleeping partner, literally.
Literally sleeping partner. Typical marketing.
Yeah. And you know, it fell apart because of that, and I ended up doing all the marketing myself. I went to Smith's and did all the deals.
I mean, again, this is 1982, so these are early days.
Yeah.
Is that can we just ask you, how many did it sell?
Well, the first order from Smith's were 10,000 each.
Wow. Okay, impressive.
Yeah, that time was quite a lot. Yeah.
Were you actually making some decent money here, Malcolm? I mean, was it enough to give up your job, maybe?
I'd already given up my job.
Okay, well, to do this full time, you'd already made that commitment.
Because the company closed down.
Oh, okay. Right. So they asked you to stop working there. Okay, that's different. I want to ask one last question on this one. This game is usually cited as the best, or at least one of the best, I think the best, ZX81 game of all time. I just wondered if it was an enduring source of pride for you.
Well, yes, in a way, but I never appreciated how it's taken off. You know, when we sold the rights to all my games to Virgin, we had I think 2 boxes of 100 left, and 3 days before the date arrived, we actually managed to sell 100. The other 100 went to the incinerator.
Ooh, that's a horrible image.
Yeah, that we actually had to do that. It was part of the agreement.
Okay, thanks Bert. Thanks Branson for making you burn 100 copies of 3D Monster Maze. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the Spectrum. So, still in 1982, you do move on to the Spectrum. So let me start by asking, when did you hear that Sinclair had got another micro in the works?
I can't remember. Sorry, too long ago.
That's
my brain's not with me.
Did you get early access, or did you literally just see it on the shelves of Boots or something?
No, we did get an earlier access to see what we could do with it.
So what, Sinclair sent you a machine?
Yeah. Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Lovely. So go on then. You've got a machine in your bedroom, if you're still coding in your bedroom.
Yeah.
What was your first impressions of this fancy new micro?
I found it limited because sorry about that.
Whoops.
Because the ZX81, of course, was just black and white, and therefore the interface with the screen was a lot easier to to do, and faster. You could also switch screens, which meant that you didn't get flickering on the screen if you did it right, synchronised it.
You see,
But
I mean,
on this Spectrum, it was the screen being colour, but it's still blocking really.
yeah. Well, if we look at this is Escape from 1982, playing on the Spectrum. As you can see, there's a maze. There's some dinosaurs there as well. So was this sort of a sequel to 3D Monster Maze, or?
Yeah, I was trying for 2 or 3 games to find out what could be done, because I calculated that it was too slow with the interface to actually do a 3D Monster Maze.
So just doing a direct port, but with colour and maybe sound.
Yeah.
You just real at this point in 1982, you just didn't think the Spectrum would be able to do as good a job.
That's as far as I can see. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't want to be rude, but no offence, but this game does look like a step backwards compared to 3D Monster Maze. Am I just being rude there?
No, you wouldn't.
Thank you very much. Okay.
No, it was an attempt to see what can be done, and I introduced a few other things that aren't in Monster Maze, of course. But the interesting thing was I went and saw John Rose, the buyer at Smith's, and he thought, oh, it's quite a good game. He bought 500. So I went to the duplicators, and during that day, while we were sorting it all out, he'd actually gone up to 5,000. He'd run about 4 times. 5,000, sorry. And when I got home to Bath, my wife said, he's ordered 10,000 now. So
I just find that fascinating. So in the day, I suppose it's 1982. So credit to you, you managed to get a game out the same year the machine was launched. So I imagine your competition was possibly limited. So again, how well did Escape do? Did you sell all 10,000?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Sorry. All right then. How many did you sell? I think we're all fascinated to know how many these things actually sold. So obviously none of us ever copied them. So we're just interested in how many were actually sold.
It's difficult to tell because I wasn't because my brother came and joined me by that time. Because he was an accountant, he managed to sort out that. And I remember once saying to him that, as far as I saw, he had sold 90,000 3D Monster Maze, and he said, no, it's actually more than that.
Really?
Yeah, but
this particular game, Escape, was released through new generation software. So that means that not only had you moved on to a new machine, it sounds like you set up your own company.
That's right.
So first of all, had you fallen out with J.K. Gray then? What had happened there?
Yeah, well, what we hadn't fallen out because I didn't think he was actually playing his part in the partnership. Because my wife actually looked in the bedroom and she wasn't even there. So we hadn't a clue what he was doing. And when I went through, with my own company and went round the magazines, they told me that they actually told me that they had difficulty getting hold of J.K. Gray's software,
right.
And that's why he didn't get any production. Any media coverage at all.
So you certainly took matters into your own hands. Can I just ask before we go on to your next game? Is that what was it like running a company in 1982? Was it very much a family affair?
When my brother joined me, yes, and my wife, of course, and it was a very homely, but all the people involved in the various other companies were, talking to each other. Most companies are perhaps only to say.
Right, we're going to move into 1983. with your next game, which is 3D Tunnel. So first of all, it's back to 3D. So does this indicate that you are kind of becoming more confident with the Spectrum hardware?
No, I think it means that I'm still trying to aim at something that was in 3D. Because we're talking tunnel, aren't we? So I haven't got eyes in the back of my head.
Oh, come on.
No, it was trying to speed it up, the graphics, by using the colour palette.
It is quite. You've obviously got this 3D effect by, I think, sort of creating squares that as you can see behind as they kind of swoop out. So it's sort of 3D, but it's sort of cheating as well.
Yeah,
but a very clever cheat. Okay, was it hard to pull off?
No, because I think all I remember is the same bit of code is used for each of the quarters of the thing, and because then it ran through doing each, and all you've got is plus and minus signs in different places on it.
You're making all this sound very easy. Anyway, I don't know why we all didn't make games back then, honestly. It does get really fast, and I know when I played it, you sort of felt yourself kind of leaning to each side. Were you ever worried about players getting sort of motion sickness?
No.
So there's not a lawsuit waiting to happen there. I think you've done a really brilliant job there. And you also populate your tunnel with creatures.
Yes.
So we've got like a swooping bat, a spider, a kind of weird rat. Is this all your own work, or were you getting some help at this point?
All the graphics have been mine.
Have you got a background in art, Malcom?
No. I say the only part of the graphics that wasn't mine in the centre of which one is it? Corridors of Jenin.
Oh, okay.
Corridors of Jenin. There's a computer there, and we thought it'd been a good idea to get a graphics designer to design that, and gave him the rules for the graphics for the Spectrum. And he came up with something with shades and colours and things.
Yeah, we'll have a look. We're coming on to Corridors of Genon. But just on 3D.
Like that one.
Okay, well, I'm really sorry I'm going to ask you about it. So, okay, in 3D Tunnel, what we particularly like is that there is light at the end of a tunnel, but unfortunately it's a train coming. It's a brilliant effect of having this train coming along. Was that very difficult to pull off? Because I don't think it was in the 16K version. I think it was only in the 48K version. So tell me, that sounds like it was a tricky thing to pull off.
No, not really. No, it's just thinking what the image would look like, and the fact that you only have one pixel space either side to get there, and then it would zoom past you. If not, you crash into it, of course, or you crash into the wall. So you've got to be very quick to get it exact.
It really is a lovely effect. Another thing that I find interesting in this game is that it does actually end. Is that when you get to the end of phase 5, there's like a proper conclusion. I just wondered whether that was something important to you, to give a game a distinctive end, rather than just replaying until you get bored or the Spectrum crashes.
No.
So are you having a set end?
When you consider 3D Monster Maze could go on forever.
Okay. So I just wondered why you decided I'm going to give this one an ending. I've had enough.
Well, I don't think there was anything else you could throw down there.
There was nothing more in the tunnel, okay? Now, we did do our research, and we found that 3D Tunnel was mentioned as one of the best 3 in show at the Personal Computer World Show in 1983. So again, did this one do well for you commercially?
I'm not really sure. I don't... Yeah, we kept us going anyway.
Did you feel a lot of pressure on your shoulders, because you were the only programmer at this point? So were you feeling the pressure?
Yes. Well, all the way through it was just me. Yes, doing the programming until we got 2 young programmers in. But you know, it was a case that later on I actually wanted to do an adventure, but unfortunately that was going to take me too long, and my brother stopped me doing it, and it never got finished.
Brother knows best on that one. Now we're going to move on to the next game. Now notice the garish colours on 3D Tunnel. Well, here's more garish colours. This is called Knot in 3D, spelled K-N-O-T. We would argue it's your most abstract, almost surreal
most abstract
title. Yes, even the title seems a nod to the artist Rennie Magritte. So were you trying to distance what new generation software were doing from other firms who were basically satisfied with just knocking out a clone of an arcade game?
It was just me wanting to do something different all the time. Each one was going to be different. I was pushing myself, not necessarily the industry.
I found that really interesting. Do you just get bored easy? You need a new challenge? Okay. Well, I hope I can keep you interested for the rest of this interview. Let's try.
Yeah.
Okay. What I'm interested in this is that whilst it is quite abstract, is that, you know, there's a little bit of Tron-like cycles there, maybe even a little bit of Snake. Were these inspirations too?
That was inspired by seeing a friend of mine on BBC, I think it was, playing Snake, and I thought, what would it look like in 3D? So then I thought, now, what would it look like? How would I do it?
Yeah, you might want to talk us through that, right? Because you've told me this game, and I quote, this game's got no graphics, just colour.
Yeah.
Explain what you mean by that statement.
Well, the whole of this thing is all
the trails or the trails?
No, I would say on the data on this picture is always the same. All I'm doing is changing colour.
Okay. I think I'm following. Are we following there? Okay.
I'm only changing colour. There's no writing to it. So just the two colours that are in the.
So if we look on the screen now, is that you, the player, is leaving the yellow trail. Can you tell us what are all these other crazy colours?
You are not leaving the yellow one. That is. I'm just trying to work out. Oh.
So, I like you providing sound effects. Oh.
No, you're moving down here. You're leaving the trail behind you.
Oh, I see.
And these are all the trails that you have left, or us other snakes have left.
Okay. Can I say I'm starting to get hypnotised just looking at that screen for a while. So okay. It is, and also is that Snake is obviously in 2D. So is it right that you're sort of moving a 3D space as if you're moving around a cube? Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, but the cube is infinite.
The cube is infinite. Man, I'm getting heavy now.
It's a large cube like that.
Right.
Okay, it's mapped. But if you go off this end, you come in on that side in all directions. Right?
Okay.
So. You know, if you just carry on going straight, that's what that looks like. Someone just been going straight across, you'll eventually
hit your own tail. It's like life, really, isn't it? Yeah. God, amazing. Okay, can I just say that whilst it looks beautiful, I think it's one of those games that could only be made of that time, and yet there's a strangely timeless quality to it. It's quite arty. Is that? Let's be honest, though. Do you think it was a bit too confusing for players at the time?
I hope not. I would say it's me just trying something out and seeing what it was. I know my brother had a bit of trouble trying to explain it.
Yes, were you working with magazines at this point? I mean, did you send demos out to reviewers, for example?
We did, yeah.
And did you listen to their feedback?
Well, the feedback usually came after we've published.
Right, okay, yeah. And you couldn't do a day one patch, right?
No.
We got it, okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever use play testers? Or was it just you and maybe your brother?
No, it was just us, yeah. That's right, yeah. That's right, yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, until we were satisfied that everything was there and was working, we didn't try not to publish.
No, fair enough, fair enough. Now, we did check, and actually, despite it being, like I say, quite an abstract, potentially confusing game, is that it did get some good reviews, both CNVG and Crash.
Yeah.
We also wondered, did you ever consider revisiting this one, because it is such an original concept?
No, because I never revisited anything.
That is true. That is not your way, because actually, if we move on to the next game, we've alluded to it a little. This is Corridors of Genon, again released in 1983. So after 3 Spectrum releases, is this you finally returning to the concept of 3D Monster Maze?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought it was as close as I could get to it. Unfortunately, the monster is still, Bogle. It was still too small. I didn't, it needed to be more than that.
Okay.
Really.
Okay.
But it couldn't be done without flickering and everything else.
Okay. First of all, can we talk about the corridors? They're curved.
Yeah.
I just want to be why. Is there why? Do you just enjoy them? Just to be different.
Yeah, just to be different, and to have the concept of these doors that you have to open and close.
I think, was it difficult? I mean, that effect, was it difficult to create that idea of a corridor curving as opposed to, just straight on?
No, it's exactly the same as if they were straight. You have the lines with the demarcation between the colours as curves.
Okay, beautifully done. It always reminds me of one of those kind of little ball puzzles that you had on your hand, where you had to get a ball into a maze. Was that an inspiration? Is that what you were sort of modelling this on?
No, just me being different and awkward.
You being awkward, okay. Now, Genon sounds a very sci-fi kind of name, but I understand that the root of the name's a little bit closer to home.
Yes, it came from Rod. From generation.
Okay, so it's like a corruption of new generation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, again, the colours are ridiculously garish. Malcolm, please can you justify your aesthetic choices with this game?
No.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they're just all different. And, I always try and make them colourful anyway.
Okay. Now, we mentioned that 3D Monster Maze was silent. There is some rather subtle use of sound effects in this game. Is that you can hear the footsteps of the Bogles. Tell us about how that was supposed to...
You have clicking sounds, basically, I think. I can't remember. And the idea is that each time one steps, you can hear it. Even if they're in a different corridor, the next corridor down behind the door. So you can hear them go up to behind the door.
And then when the footstep stops, you know that they're outside the door.
Yeah.
I just think that's great.
Try not to open that one.
Well, obviously try not to open that one. I like that you were trying to do it, you were trying to make it 3D, but you're trying to use audio as well to suggest that 3D. I just think that's brilliant. Now, this game actually came with an overlay that you could put on the keyboard to tell you what the keys did, which is a really, really interesting idea. But did that not make you worry that maybe it was a bit too complicated, because you're going to have to need a keyboard for players to know what the hell they were supposed to do?
I blame my brother for that one.
Okay.
It was his idea to do that rather than have the normal cursors on the keyboard.
Okay. You better tell us the origin of the Bogle. He looks like a sort of disgruntled cubit. So is that what you were modelling the Bogle on? Is that your work again?
It was the fact that it had to be smallish, but I wanted it to spurt something out to hit you when it got you. Hence the big snout and the snot coming out.
Okay, so that is definitely, can I just establish that is snot? That is snot that is spurting at you.
Yeah,
okay, but we've got that on record. Okay.
Bogleised, I think.
Okay, there you go. You've got your own word, brilliant. Okay, okay. Escaping is very satisfying when you finally get to the middle of the maze, and it says you now have knowledge of the universe. But Bogle cloned however many times, depending how long you took to crack the code.
That's
so
right.
this is when you
Back
first,
into-
you seem to be very bothered about giving the players a bit of a high score to aim at this time.
Yeah. Well, all the games I played myself and worked out how I wanted to continue, and they won't necessarily be the same. You know, they're all different. You know, if I thought, right, now let's go back in there, find an excuse for having more, because the first one just starts with one tracking you, then two, then three, and slowly increases. It's making it more and more difficult. Yeah.
You really had a sense of racking up the tension. Okay, so we're now going to move out of 1983, which was a pretty prolific year for you, and we're going to move on, which I would argue, apart from 3D Monster Maze, I would say that this is probably your best known game, certainly on the spectrum, which is Trashman.
Yeah.
Okay, now before we start talking about Trashman, I want to ask the state of new generation software. You've had 3 game releases in 1983.
Yeah.
Were you feeling pretty optimistic as the company entered 1984?
Not that really.
Why not?
We had, well, we thought we could do better, you know, in the marketing side. That's why we got another company to do marketing.
Oh, so this is the first game that's got someone else behind you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. You better tell us then. So Trash is very different from your other games. So where did the idea for Trashman come from then?
Well, it started off because at a meeting with the marketing people company, they asked me what I'm doing now, what I was doing, and I hadn't a clue. And they said to me, as far as they could see, that kids only wanted crap, or rubbish, or anything, and they sell it. You see? Right? So at the end of the meeting, my brother turned to me and said, "Right, all you've got to produce is crap, then, right?"
Okay.
So I remember saying to him, "Right, I'll go on to the crap and see what falls out." But he then turned around and said, "That's already been done."
Oh, yeah, there was a game that involved being on the toilet, wasn't there? Raw Flush, I believe.
Yeah, oh yeah, that was it, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So you sat on the toilet trying to think up an idea for your next game.
Yeah, I started then thinking about rubbish, and as a result, I thought of clearing rubbish from space. But that didn't seem to spur other ideas. And then I thought of dustmen collecting rubbish, and suddenly the whole lot, you know, seemed to expand. You know, I could see the lots of things you could do with that idea, and that's where
it's
that
certainly
came
one
from.
that you ran with. Can we just talk about the name though? Because surely you're a British man, you're a British company. Why didn't you call it Dustman, or indeed Binman, which I'd like to point out, Binman is a very good Spectrum name, right? I want that on record as well. Okay, why did you not call it Dustman or Binman?
Rod said there was already a game called Dustman.
Oh, okay.
As far as he understood, and he didn't want them to actually sue us for the name, so we called it Trashman. And the funny thing was, when we just about published, we had a publisher coming to us and saying, "We're just producing a book of source codes, and one of them is called Trashman."
Wait, so you mean a book of listings, just of game listings? Yeah. Oh, right. What are the chances?
And they then said, can we actually do it? You know, because we don't want to go through and change it all. So what we actually did is to say, well, so long as you make sure that they know that listing is not our New Generations game. And what they actually put in is something like, this is not the tremendous game by New Generation Software of the same name.
So you got a little bit of free advertising there. not to labour the point, but Trashman makes me think a bit American. Trash is a kind of American term. So was this you sort of targeting the as yet unexploited US market?
We thought it was.
Okay.
But we decided to go with Quicksilver to get them to market it in the States. And they ended up changing the name to Garbage Gobbler because in America, trash means something completely different.
Okay, well there you go. Okay. Now, if you can see on the screen here, is that these streets are actually named after real streets in Bath. And famous, so apart from one mistake, I think we'll come to.
No, they don't look. They aren't Bath streets. The names are, but.
Oh yes, sorry mate, yeah, because that does look exactly, in fact if you go on Google Maps in Bath, that's exactly what it looks like. Sorry, I'm so sorry Malcolm, what an idiot I am. Okay, so, once upon a time, famous flat-top games hack Stuart Campbell, it's easy to say, visited these streets years later and did a little article, and he noted that one street called Lincoln Vale had a very strange vibe and was full of weirdos. Do you think he'd got a point there? Lincoln Vale, was that a particularly strange street in Bath?
I didn't realise he said that about my home.
Yeah, that's actually the street you lived in, isn't it? Okay, right. So clearly, whatever you think of Stuart Campbell, right? Okay. You mentioned that these streets are supposed to be in Bath, but apparently one of them isn't. What happened there?
Yeah, what happened is I went round the group because we had two younger programmers with us then, and asked for names for places in Bath, and what's the name of the
Lincoln Vale? Or, oh no, is it Montague Street? Is that right?
Montague Road, I think.
Montague Road.
Yeah. Our youngest programmer said Montague Road. So I said, where's that? He tried to explain where it was. I said, all right, they were putting it in. It was only when that article came out, he admitted that was the road he lives in Bristol.
Okay, couldn't even get it right there. Okay. Can I just slip in that you mentioned at this point, New Generation Software has been essentially you and your brother Rod and your wife's helping as well. But you mentioned that you had employed two other coders at this point.
Yeah.
Was that you trying to, well, I don't know, expand or maybe take the pressure off yourself?
Yeah,
maybe?
Trying to take the pressure off me, so they could produce games for other machines or do conversions and things like that. That was the idea, and
did it work?
Not really, not financially.
Okay.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Let's get back to Trashman. One of the lovely things about it is that you put little comments. Oh, hang on, you put it secretly on. Yeah, it's all right. Is that you put little comments? You put little comments underneath when Trashman's kind of interacting with his customer. It sounds like you had great fun coming up with some of those.
That started because the marketing guy, when he came in to see the game, came in next time and saw the game, he said the only trouble with games is that the onlooker doesn't have anything to do, really. So that's where suddenly it hit me. If Trashman goes in for a tip, then they will actually read it. And probably the one that's playing it wouldn't even have time to look at it themselves.
I think it's a lovely touch, and lots of those little quick. Give me a ZX81 and I'll rule the world. Is that a nod to Sir Clive?
Yeah, didn't he say that quote? We've misquoted on it.
He's close enough. I think he said you could control a nuclear power station.
Oh yeah, it was close.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you wonder what happened at Chernobyl, anyway, so Trashman was definitely your biggest hit, and it even got you. Thanks, Martin. It even got you a cover. So this is a whoa. Sorry, who's that actually on the cover of Sinclair User?
I'm afraid it's me.
Can I say that's absolutely brilliant? Will you tell us about that? Yeah, I agree. Can you tell us about that? How did they convince you? Or maybe that's how you dressed all the time, I don't know.
No, what actually happened, I didn't know about it other than there was going to be a reporter there from Sinclair User. And in the the morning of this. It was a hot morning, and my wife suddenly came out with all this garb for me to wear. She'd actually collected it together, and the publicity group were there, and photographer, and they cut the bottom of the dustbin of my mother-in-law, who lived with us at the time, off.
Okay.
So I was actually in that dustbin.
But
It's not photoshopped, it's real. Yeah.
That's a real bin, ladies and gentlemen.
And I was therefore kneeling with this bin round me. And if you look at all the stuff that's there, it's quite expensive.
Is that literally the contents of your bin?
No, it was the contents that the publicity people brought from a hamper they got or something for Christmas or something like that.
It's so beautifully hands-on, okay. Now
the cat there, by the way, is the cat.
Yes, there is a cat there. Yeah. Is that your cat?
No, it was my mother-in-law's.
Your mother-in-law's cat. Yeah. You read it here first. Yeah. Okay, now what's interesting about Trashman is that for the first time you do actually do a sequel. You said before that you liked doing something different, but I understand that Rod wanted you to do a sequel to Trashman because it had done well. Yeah. But initially you were reluctant. Tell us what you actually started to do.
Well, I started to do an adventure, and it was basically. The view of Trashman, but that perspective, looking down onto the chip inside your computer, right? And the problem with it was you had obviously you had lots of bugs in it,
of course,
as you always do, and you had the seals or hermetic seals chewed at the thing, and water was slowly coming in, and you had to continuously feed these seals so they were happy, and they were helped by chipmunk. And
so you've got some terrible puns in there, Malcolm. Absolutely awful puns. Okay, did that get very far?
I spent about 2 or 3 months on it, I think.
Which back then was quite a lot, then.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and realised it was going to take too long to do it, and so. That's when Travels was done.
Exactly, so it's like, right, we've got something made, we've got Trashman, we've got that established character. We like the idea that you've expanded, that Trashman now travels to 14 cities across the world and collects rubbish appropriate to the venue. Yeah. So we've got beer glasses in Munich and frogs in France. Malcolm, you do not seem shy of national stereotypes, right? Okay. You do realise you get cancelled if you did that now, okay?
Yes, I do.
Okay, right. So tell us, do you have great fun thinking of what rubbish people might find on the banks of the Ganges or whatever?
Sorry, can you say that?
So did you have great fun thinking of different items of rubbish that players might find at various locations in the world?
At that time, no, not really. I was just thinking of things that the Trashman would perhaps, being a tidy sort of guy, he would actually go around and tidying up, like roses in Spain.
It's beautiful. There's lots of really lovely ideas. You have said that you don't really like revisiting a concept. So, I mean, was this a kind of, we have to do it or else the company's in trouble, or did you end up enjoying revisiting Trashman?
I didn't enjoy it as much as doing Trashman itself. It was okay because it didn't push me at all. Each character had a different or place had a different algorithm attached to it. So each game was slightly different.
Okay. Bear in mind that you've said that you don't desperately enjoy revisiting the concept. At the end of this game, I think it's right at the end of this game, you allude to and the next in the Trashman series, Trashman Through Time. So was that ever going to happen?
As far as Rod was concerned, yes. As far as I was concerned, never.
Okay. So that was just as a bit of a sob to your brother to get him off your back?
No, he actually told the publicity people that that's what it was going to happen. And he only told me afterwards.
Okay. Early example of vaporware. It's all here. Okay. Now, what with Trashman now is in 2 games and apparently going to be in a third one. So we just wondered if you ever considered maybe a tie-in with the most famous bin man of the 80s, which would be Eddie Yates from Coronation Street. Why didn't you think of that, Malcolm? Because I've interviewed you before, that's how I know. Okay, don't tell anyone. No, I just randomly thought of that.
Because he turned us down, it was too expensive.
So you did approach Eddie Yates from Coronation Street, but he turned you down, presumably because Electronic Arts had offered him a bigger gig.
Probably, yeah.
So can I just say, I think we all want to know, someone literally phoned up Eddie Yates, or the actor who plays it. Wait, is he real? No, the actor that plays Eddie Yates, and said, please will you be on the cover of our game. Did that happen?
Yeah, I think my brother had actually done it.
Amazing. Right, and do you know how much money did he want?
I don't know.
Clearly too much.
Yeah, he rejected it.
Well, they do say that everyone has their price, and it turns out that Jonah Barrington, the most prominent Scottish player of the 80s, I'm sure you know, has got a price. Okay, so we're going to look now at Jonah Barrington's squash. So can I just ask, did you write the game first, or did you actually approach Jonah Barrington and think maybe we can have a tie-in here?
I think it was in parallel, basically, because, as you say, it was my brother that played badminton. And
badminton? Do you mean badminton? Because if it's badminton, you've not done a very good job. Do you mean badminton or do you mean squash?
Squash, sorry.
Right, that's okay. Right, that would.
I'll get mixed up with Barrington. Sorry.
Right.
No. Sorry, what was I saying?
That's all right. Is that so? You did approach Jonah Barrington as you were developing the game. He was there from the start.
Yeah, well, when I started it, I started the game, and Rob looked at the publicity and decided it would be nice to have him. I think primarily because he wanted a meeting.
Really? Well, that's it. Fair enough. He's allowed a perk there. So this is a sports title. You hadn't done a sports title before. Was this just you wanting a new challenge?
Well, when Rod suggested it, I thought yes, I like that one because it's different for me. Yeah.
And was it a challenge? I mean, you're approaching a different sort of game. You need kind of ball physics. I mean, was it a challenge to pull it off?
Well, I put in Newton's laws of motion into the ball, and
really?
And the various coefficients, and then got Rod to play it, and he said no, the ball wouldn't come off that fast and things like that. So, we played.
So you genuinely tried to make it a simulation of actually what it's like to play squash.
Yeah.
Kudos, I'm very impressed. Okay. Now, Jonah didn't just lend his name to the game, he actually came for a press shoot. So as you can see here, Jonah Barrington, who's looking absolutely comfortable with that joystick in his hand, right? And
no, he didn't.
About as comfortable as Ed Miliband looks with like a bacon cob in his hand. So did he actually play the game, or was that just mocked up?
No, he tried to play the game, but hit it against the end wall and didn't manage to run across it.
Okay. So there was no rallies,
not really
at all.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you think? Did that help with the game? This was you sort of, getting a celebrity endorsement, which of course became very prevalent later on in the industry. Do you think it made a big difference to how the game was received and how it's sold?
I don't know. Perhaps we would ask our audience on that one.
I don't know. Were the magazines interested? I mean, obviously they sent someone to do a photo shoot. Do you think it helped get more coverage in the magazines?
Probably, yes. I would have hoped so. But I would say marketing was Rod's my brother's.
Marketing is indeed Rod. In fact, actually, shall we?
I thought it did quite well.
Yeah. In fact, Martin, we'll put that. Can we put on the picture? Let's just talk about Rod here. So we've got a picture here of the new generation team. Thanks, Martin.
Yeah.
So obviously that's you on the right. Perhaps you could just tell us the other three gentlemen on this picture.
Rod is the one with the moustache, and that's my brother, my twin brother, that is. And that's Paul Bunn and James Day.
James Day, yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
And perhaps, because I know Rod sadly passed away now, I'm sure he'd be here today supporting you.
Yeah.
Is it perhaps you could just tell us a bit about Rod's contribution to the success of new generation software?
Well, he was, as I said, a marketing guy and accountant and everything else. So leaving me to do all the software. He had the worries and I had the enjoyment.
Oh, that's a lovely way to put it. Now, Jonah Barrington's Squash was the... it wasn't quite the final game from New Generation Software, but as far as I know, it was your final Spectrum game.
Yeah.
So I hate to bring this up, but then... So at what point did you realise, you know, the game is up, we're going to have to stop making games for the Spectrum or any other micro for that matter?
It was, you know, things were beginning to fall off, and you know, and we weren't, you know, it was, perhaps I lost interest, because I got interested in, we actually ended up producing, selling the whole catalogue to Virgin.
Yeah.
And then I looked at producing a computer.
Yeah, let's pick up both of those. So first of all, you sold all your back catalogue to Virgin. Can I just ask, given you're in a room now full of people that are interested in this stuff, do you regret that now, selling off the rights to your past games?
Very difficult one, because we didn't think it would carry on.
No.
You know, it was tailing off, and you know, it wasn't. We didn't think it would pick up again, and it would be me having to write continuously. You know, because you know, the other things we were doing, you know, the cheaper range of things that wasn't running.
Because it's funny, you've only actually, I better wind things up, but you've only actually in the games business for about 3 years, kind of 82 to about 84, I'd say. Yeah. So just to finish, it's only 3 years in your long life. I just wondered, how do you look back on those years when you were right in the heart of the burgeoning British software industry?
I didn't look at it that way. You know, it was me. Because my whole objective at the beginning was to get into software away from hardware. And when New Generation went, I was able to, well, get back into spacecraft hardware, but they knew I could do software then, and I was doing software, and I was ended up in a software-only company as well, doing spacecraft.
So who knew 3D Multimaze and Trashman was just a way till you get into rocket science? Amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, have a big round of applause for Malcom Evans. Okay, we over... Oh yes, I interrupted. Yay! Woo! Okay, we slightly overran because of the technical issues. So, but we have got time for a couple of questions, and then there's time if anyone would like anything sign in. Look at this packed room. So, I bet I can take 3 or 4. Let me try. Okay, so I got one. Okay. There you go, mate.
Malcolm, who designed the first 3D Multimaze cover art?
Ooh, good question.
I think that was. I can't remember. I think it was. Me, it could have been John, but I think it was I can't remember, because I mentioned to you earlier, I thought it was Paul Pengelly of Bath, but that turned out to be New Generation's thing, you know, first colours, but I can't remember.
Thank you.
Thank you. There you go.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, just two questions. First one to Paul. I take issue with the fact that you used the word garish with Spectrum. As opposed to, I don't know, praying for a major competitor. But no, I did notice, Malcolm, there is a general theme of peril throughout of your games. Was that planned, or is it just
Sorry,
your
did you say peril?
Peril, mild peril, perhaps? Is that
No, I turned this off. No.
was that planned, or is it just a theme in your life that everything is a little whoa?
I think it's become that in my life. Yeah. Well, I just feel that a game has to have more than just performing acts, sort of thing. You've got to have repercussions of what you're doing.
Yeah, mate. Sorry.
This is about the controls on 3D Tunnel. Because I never had a decent joystick back in the day. Where did you get the idea from to have two keys together for up, down, left, right? So you put your fingers over the top of it and move them around as if it's a strange finger-made joystick. Because no one else has ever done anything like that. What was wrong with QAOP?
Well, I think I actually answered that one. It was my brother that decided that might be the best way to do it, because he, just doing what we had wasn't so easy. The way he had, he chose those because it worked for him. So then he decided, right, we'll have that overlay on the keyboard.
Okay. I think we still feel your pain, actually, because it was genuinely awkward. Okay, I've got time for 2 more questions. If there's anyone at the back who wants to ask anything, tell me now. Or maybe, here we go.
All of your games are fantastic ideas. Did you start developing any games that you abandoned along the way that we've never seen?
Well, that adventure, of course, that was abandoned. But there was one other that it was, I forgot what it's called, Shoot the Rapids. I did a Spectrum version of that, but when we saw the covers for it, I nearly turned into tears. I didn't like the game that much. When I saw that, I thought, no, we shouldn't actually publish it. I didn't actually mention that to my brother, but it was only about 10 years later I realised he didn't actually publish that on the Spectrum. He only published it on the Commodore 64, which Paul Bunn actually converted.
Okay, thank you so much. Just say a big thank you to both Craig and Chris and his team for putting all this on, and thank you to Martin, who does a hell of a lot of work on his wedding anniversary. Will he still be married at the end of the day? If you're interested in questions like that, then at 5 o'clock on the main stage we have got a Spectrum quiz which you will play on your phone, so you can stand there with a drink and on your phones, and we've got some decent prices. Thanks for Chris. So at 5 o'clock, if you